Hold the blue springs with the round tab facing down in your left hand. Make sure that the round tab sets down in the rotor in one of the round holes in the rotor. Then when you put your oil rings on, make sure that the square tab sticking up engages one of the square holes on the back side of the oil ring. Here is where the round tab on the spring should be placed. There are 2 round depressions on each rotor. Choose one. There are 2 square notches in the back side of each oil ring. One notch must line up directly with the square tab on each oil ring spring. As you did with the front face, press down carefully until each oil ring seats. Place small amounts of petroleum jelly in each corner seal hole and side seal slot. This will keep the seals from falling out of the rotors when it's turned over. Place your corner seal springs in each hole of the rotor, making sure the opened end is toward the apex seal slot. Note that there is an upper and lower side to the corner seals. The upper side is usually more polished and sharper than the lower or spring side. If you're using used corner seals, never install them upside down because they may never seat correctly. Make sure each seal freely moves up and down. Make sure you install side seal springs with both ends facing up toward the seal. If you decide to reuse side seals, make sure the shiny side faces up away from the rotor, because the spring side will have small grooves on it that may never seat properly. New side seals need to be trimmed to fit. Be sure to polish the end at an angle to match your corner seal. Before flipping the rotors over, put a little more petroleum jelly on the corner and side seals to keep them from falling out. At this point, we are now back to the front faces of the rotors. Install the corner seals and springs and side seals and springs the same way you did on the rear side. Stand the rotors up and place petroleum jelly in the apex slots. Install your apex springs with the tips facing up. Next, place the apex seal in the slot, making sure that the springs engage in the bottom of the depressions in the apex seal. The pointed end of the apex seal needs to point to the rear face of each rotor. Extra petroleum jelly will keep these apex seals from falling out. Check the seals for free travel without binding. Rotate the rotors and continue to install the remaining apex seals and springs. This particular engine uses 2 springs per apex seal. Some engines may only use 1 spring. Apply petroleum jelly on all your rotor bearings. One trick we use to help hold the apex seals in place until we are ready to install the rotors is to wrap an old black water jacket seal around it. If you don't have any extra ones, a rubber band may work. Be sure to check the clearances on all the parts. Parameters may be found in the Mazda Tech manual or the info sheet provided with this tape. The original 3-piece apex seals have been known to beat the slot open at the top of the rotors. Be sure apex seal slots are not spread out at the top. This may cause the 2-piece apex seals to fracture lengthwise. At this time, Mazda no longer offers 3-piece apex seals. We recommend that you lay out all your cleaned parts to make sure nothing is forgotten during the rebuild process. Clean the through bolt threads and underside of the heads thoroughly. A wire wheel works real nice. Inspect the in-play bearings and races for chipping and pitting. Examine the gears for broken teeth. Be very certain the Woodruff key does not fall out during installation of the gear on the oil pump. Make sure the shaft does not have any scratches in the bearing areas. Polish the bearing surfaces with a Scotch-Brite pad by hand. Be sure to blow out any dust or debris that may be in the shaft. Discard the shaft if it has ever experienced a bearing failure. A bluish discoloration is normal due to the original equipment manufacturing heat treating process. You will need these parts for your front cover except for these 2 keys for the main shaft. Remove these parts from your overhaul gasket kit and make sure that you have the correct quantity of each. At Atkins Rotary, we compression test every engine with the Mazda compression tester. We also pressurize the cooling system so that we know there are no internal coolant leaks. Starting the final assembly, we begin with installing the pressure gauge over the water pump housing opening. No need to worry if you don't have these tools handy. Slip the front stationary gear into the in-play, making sure to align the pin with the slot. Take the thickest of this size race and lay it down in the gear. Note the inside bevel is placed toward the gear. Install the first in-play bearing and apply some oil. Set the largest race in place. Note that there's a pin that it needs to line up with. Of the gear bolts available, these bolts are the long ones, near 1 inch long. The shorter bolts are installed in the rear gear. Follow the torque specs provided by Atkins or your Mazda Tech manual. Turn the end plate over and apply a bead of Hylamar to the water jacket seal grooves. When installing the inner water jacket seal, place the joint at the top of the engine near the intake port, because this is the coolest part of the engine. Somewhere in this area is the best place to install this joint. When installing the outer black water jacket seal, be careful that they don't twist or roll on you. Prior to 1986, this black water jacket seal did not have white sides. If it rolled or twisted, it was very difficult to see. However, you can feel it by lightly passing your fingers over the entire seal. Lay the other end plates out and repeat the process of installing the water jacket seals. Apply petroleum jelly to the surface of the cast iron end plates and bearings. Apply Hylamar to all 4 oil galley locations in the rotor housings and install the O-rings. Slide your alignment dowels into the rotor housings. Be sure that this alignment dowel is very clean inside because it doubles as an oil passage. Blow air into the oil metering orifice near the top of the rotor housing, making sure that plenty of air passes through. Apply a thin layer of petroleum jelly to the inner surfaces of both rotor housings.